page 4 of the Standard this morning. DP lashes out against fake polls. That is on page 7 of the Standard this morning. Mo Farah reveals real identity. This is what Dr. Kanenja was talking about. You can follow the story on page 37 of the Standard this morning. Uhuru hits campaign trail for Azimio, and he says, why are you talking about Uhuru yet he is not seeking votes? They keep telling me to finish my term and go home. I don't know where they think I'll go, but I'll still be here. That is the president yesterday, of course, rooting for Raila Odinga on the campaign trail. And you can see how people also came out in force yesterday on the campaign trail. Today is Wednesday. You have Enterprise coming in handy for you inside the Standard. This is how it looks. Make sure you grab a copy of the board paper. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. And this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. It's all about Uhuru and his revelation that Karua will be hard on thieves. He says, or it says, I was soft, but Karua will jail thieves. Karua will jail thieves. Politics in city rally, the president admits that he chickened out on dealing with thieves and other crooks in his government, but promises that Raila's running mate will do the dirty job if elected to office next month. And this story continues on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. Uhuru Ruto division spill to Parliament. Remember, today there was supposed to be a special seating, but that has been cancelled. Speaker Justin Muturi's attempt to recall Parliament is scuttled at the last minute with claims that it was not gazetted and was meant to elect to office new pro-Ruto leadership before the next house is sworn in. The story is tucked on page 4 of the Daily Nation. The government printer has declined and failed to gazette the special sitting for reasons not explained to us, despite the requisite documentation being forwarded to his office in good time last week. This is what the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi, while announcing a cancellation of the sitting, said. Also, there is an analysis there. Sakaja and Igatha Dole ignored the real issues. It says the Nairobi debate was important not just because the capital city is a seat of government and generates 60% of Kenya's GDP, but also because the race of governor is a showdown by proxy between the two main presidential candidates. That is Dr. Ruto of Kenya Kwanza Alliance and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in Azimio. You can read all about that on page 12 by Macharia Gaitho. And looking also on top here, another court throws away petition against Nairobi Senator's bid. The High Court dismisses a petition to disqualify Senators Johnson Sakaja from running for governorship of a city on the validity of his degree for lack of evidence. This story is tucked away on page 6 of the Daily Nation this morning. This is how it looks. And 15 women raped in Nairobi every day. This is what a new study is revealing. Shocking report by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services reveals that more than 5,000 women were sexually assaulted in the city in the 12 months to July this year. This story continues on page 11 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also, MPs to return millions paid irregularly, 460 million shillings recovered. This is on the back page of the Daily Nation. Land saga that cost Kenyatta University Vice Chancellor his job. Professor Wanaina stuck out his neck and fell. He had that story on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's see what the Star is holding for you. And this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the Star this morning. And also the People Daily. And this is what is on the front page of the People Daily this morning. Coming shortly. Well, seems to be eluding me, but it's coming up shortly. The People Daily for you. And the Star is holding this splash. How Uhuru is betting on Raila. Uhuru bets big on Raila. 26 days to polls. President says Azimio candidate best placed to complete ongoing projects, but Ruto asks Ruto asks him to stand aside so he can face off with Raila directly. And this is what Uhuru Kenyatta is saying. Good people, Raila and Martha are the people who will liberate this country. Their competitors are just full empty talks and insults. You have that story tucked on page 4 and 6 of the People Daily this morning. County's heart as Rao derails House. Remember also that important, of course, bill was to be debated today on the passage or the monies that are supposed to be dispensed to the counties, around 39 billion shillings. Now that the special sitting is no more, the counties will suffer. And how Kenyatta ended Kiano Mungai Rao. You can follow that story inside the People Daily this morning on page 15. This is how it looks. Let me show you what we have on the front page of the Business Daily, and also I'll show you what we have on the front page of the Star later. Business Daily is here, and this is what is on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Civil servants, 100 billion shillings pay cut set for October. That's what we have here. Civil servants will lose 2 billion shillings weekly from October after the Salaries and Remuneration Commission set the date for trimming public workers' juicy allowances. SRC Chairperson Lynn Mengich said the review of a policy that will guide allowances in the public service is 80% complete and will be implemented in the next 3 months. That story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. Kenya pursues waivers of IMF loan conditions is another story that you can follow on page 4 of the Business Daily. Counties medical leasing deal extended for 3 more years. That story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. Taifa Leo is up next, and this is what you're waking up on the front page of Taifa Leo. And the rest of the dailies, you will run them by the split screen for you just to also catch up on what other dailies are saying. Mrithi wa Uhuru kuona moto, it says. Amnesty yasema rais mpya atakabiliwa na hatari ya uasi wa raia kutokana na matatizo ya kiuchumi. Right, and we have, of course, the executive director of Amnesty International here, Irungi Houghton, will tell us more about this. The rising cost of living. We can see what is happening in Sri Lanka right now. 1,000 thronged the residence of the president. And we'll show the picture of what really happened there. Some lounging there. And right now he has fled the country. He was supposed to be resigning today, but he's fled the country. This is what is on the front page of Taifa Leo this morning. And lastly, let me just cross over to Rwanda. I'll show you what is on the front page of the New Times. And this is what you're going to be waking up to this morning as a splash on the front page of New Times in Rwanda. All right. New Times also seems to be eluding me, but you might want also to grab a copy of The Economist. And this is all about Boris Johnson. The clown fall. Britain after Boris. This is what is on the front page of The Economist, the latest edition. Also on top there, who's afraid of TikTok? COVID vaccines, 20 million lives saved. Chile's terrible constitution. And the new physics. Right. This is a clownful Britain after Boris. And we shall look at the life and the leadership of Boris Johnson after his resignation much later in the course of the program. All right, so let's buckle down to the discussion. I just want to rope in our panelists this morning to look at the politics of the day as well. They were talking about Nairobi gubernatorial debate, and I just wanted to hear from them what was the silent point as far as security was concerned as well. We can begin with you, Hashim, briefly.
Well, you know, I think that our boy who went to Alliance High School, Mr. Igade, you know, going to Alliance High School is not a joke. We're still looking for Mr. Sakaja's transcripts, are we? Yes. Did we find these transcripts? So about the security angle, if I can go back to the show, we want more debates about. We want the fellow from the yellow shirts who's refused to debate. the Azimio candidate to also come out. We want the Kenyan public to be informed about the issues and for them to have a conversation with the leaders. And I have seen, and this, I'm not being partisan at all, you know I'm the most non-partisan person you have ever met, that the yellow shirts are doing badly off. And probably Kenya is going to be singing in the next year, in the next month of September, which is my birthday. The old song that we used to sing for Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, may God rest his soul. You remember that? We're about the same age. Yes. Tawala Kenya, Tawala. Raila Odinga, Tawala Kenya, Tawala. So I think we're going to be getting that in the next, by September, we should be getting that. And Mia Kagwanja will be here singing to the next president of Kenya. At the end of the day, Bana Debal, the security issue in Nairobi yesterday, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of police officers were everywhere in this city. I think that's a good thing because, you know, we have all these bad people who want to cause trouble to us when we're doing elections. So I want to commend the Internal Security Minister and the Police Commissioner. It is good to see the presence of police officers everywhere in our major towns and in the country. The security people have a responsibility to protect us while we go and vote, because this is at the time that those who are opposed to Kenya believe that we are at our weakest. And I want to send this message to them. You are very wrong. We have very capable people in our security institutions. Na hakuna kitu itatokea inshallah na nyinyi mshindwe.
Right, let's hear from Dr. Kanenje. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Dibal. So it's good to be back, though it's unusually cold at this time of the year. I didn't get to watch the debate live, however, I watched snippets of it. You know, it wasn't a very long debate. And number one, I think the candidates missed an opportunity to explain to Nairobians. They focused a lot more on, you know, personal attacks, as opposed to focusing on the agenda on actually what they're going to implement. And that was not aided by the fact that one of the leading candidates actually came in late. Number one, that is bad behavior. You know, you don't do that. You actually deny Kenyans a chance to be able to have a fruitful debate. But another aspect of, with regard to debate organizers is, it's important for us to remember that debates generally in the world over, candidates have to meet a certain threshold. So I do not understand what criteria was used to have the initial group in terms of debating. Most of them, of course, some of them had brilliant ideas, but most Nairobians were not actually familiar with them. That there has to be a threshold to be met so that we don't actually waste a lot of time with candidates who might not be having a lot of chances. Now, that does not mean that people should not be given a chance to debate. However, because of the limited time, generally, of the electioneering period, I think serious candidates who meet certain popularity threshold within the county or within the nation are the ones who should be given that platform to be able to tell the country the agenda and what they're going to do for it. But I agree with my colleague, we need more of such debates, and we are yet still to hear critical things such as, for instance, the gender security, which, of course, while it is a national function, the county also has a responsibility, and there are certain mandates that it does have to ensure that it does certain things that can enhance the security of the county, and we still haven't had that come out very clearly from the leading candidates from Nairobi.
Right, and isn't it also disturbing that we have the Nairobi Metropolitan Services report, which reveals that at least 5,000 women were raped in the city in 2021? I mean, that's a huge figure there. Peter Kagwanja, when we talk about security, I think we were navel-gazing on the solid waste and the traffic in the city, but security is important.
Well, if I could comment on the debate, let me first start by observing that both Sakaja and Igathe are personal friends and colleagues for a long time. Therefore, I would have a conflict of interest saying anything other than good about them. But we have a public responsibility to speak the truth. And when you reach my age, there are only two things remaining, that is truth and death. There's nothing else.
Truth and death is remaining.
That's all.
And taxes. No, taxes are there as well.
Let me say that if I would judge it from a policy perspective, I would give the score to Igathe. He was on, meaning he still has a long way to go to translate into a politician. Sakaja is a quintessential politician, refined, with finesse, and you like the way he's handling himself as a politician. Because it's in this country, we tend to blur lines that, you are a clergy commenting on politics, saying that people should be morally upright, and no, politics is not the same as religion. Politics is not the same as business. Politics is not the same as academy. All these are departments. And Sakaja is a quintessential politician. He's smooth talking, he's very quick, and he's able to throw a political jab in the right way. I liked the way he explained why he was late. I know for a strict Muslim like my friend Hassan Khanenje, coming early on time is very important, like he does here. But for Sakaja, he said, and I love this, it's good to come late to give Igathe time to show off, or whatever he said, I don't know. I loved it, because it was really a good answer. Then, of course, why, whether his name is correct, the answer to the lady journalist was, it was vintage. I must say, it was vintage. Who did you invite? Because you cannot invite me and then come and start asking me my names and asking for my IDs and asking me for my passport. Who was my grandmother? Who was this? I thought that was really not necessary. Either way, I think it was a good debate. It simply says that our democracy is coming of age. Because to imagine those debates in the 90s, the age of Tawara Kenya, that is singing here, it was not possible. So our democracy is coming of age. But the question of security also points to a serious gap in our system. We're talking about 15 women raped in Nairobi, 15 women raped in Nairobi every day.
Yes.
That's scaring. That's really scaring. But at the same time, I think there are better ways of dealing with this other than securitizing our streets. So we have a high wire to walk here to take care of our population in terms of their security and welfare, and also to ensure that we don't cause a scare in the streets by packing it with police officers and uniformed officers of whatever caliber. I think that's the difficult thing. I really feel that something needs to be done about this problem that the Metropolitan Service report is revealing. We need to do something about it as a nation.
Thank you.
And it's a scandal.
It's a scandal. Irungu Hilton, I wonder what will be your reaction on that as well, but also you can chime in on the debate. What was some of the salient points that you saw that stuck out for you?
So good morning once again, and just to reiterate the comment I made earlier that I'm slightly offended I didn't get the memo to come with a fedora. So
you get the memo.
I'm just improperly addressed.
You
My
do
apologies
company
to
with
your
Dr.
viewers.
Kanenje here. Say for me, I can't put on a fedora.
Well, with a light touch, I think it's partly because both of us still have our hair, and for others, I know they're a bit challenged.
Same for Kanenje, who has a shining pet here.
That one is the PhD.
It's a PhD.
Kanenje has a heart for fedora. I don't know about Irungu. The head. All right, go ahead.
So coming to the gubernatorial debate, I was there in the auditorium at the Catholic University. I thought it was an excellent debate in a number of respects. First of all, to have a vigorous policy debate between two front runners for the campaign, and of course the other four gubernatorial candidates preceded them. So it was a good evening, I think. I think there were moments when we wondered whether we would get distracted with, I guess, the jabs between them, but they kept it fairly friendly. And ultimately what we needed to ask them is, what are their individual strategies for dealing with the chronic mismanagement and corruption that we've seen at City Hall? Secondly, how do they keep the tradition of the expansion or the expanded health facilities that we've seen under NMS? And thirdly, how do we increase Nairobians' capacity for public participation and for budget transparency and budget oversight. I think these are the big issues as we move into the next administration, is really how do we get citizens to hold whoever comes to City Hall accountable for this. And I think this article in the paper today in The Nation about the 15 women that are raped in our capital city every day is just shocking. Further in that article, there is a reference to 700 teenager girls who become pregnant, and the absence of any safe abortion guidelines, the absence of any safe abortion facilities for young people that have inadvertently become early mothers, despite the fact that they are not capable at this point. Many of them will still be school-going age, but definitely dependents of others, that they should be child mothers at this stage, is something that I think really should prick our conscience as a nation.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Professor Naomi Damba, good morning.
Good morning, Dubal.
Yeah.
My own, I don't see myself.
You want to see?
No, I just want to demonstrate to the man from Muranga that he picked his hat somewhere. Mine is a designer's hat.
Yours is a designer's hat.
That's correct.
And tip your hat to,
Dubal, let me come on this a little long way, but it's a very important point which I want to drive with regard to the candidates for the city of Nairobi, Dubal. Timekeeping and time management was invented by a man called Henry Vicks in 1360. Time demonstrates commitment and reliability. Dubal, it improved efficiency and productivity. And in 2012, Dubal, I took a group of 20 MCS on a 12 Singapore. And the reason you can understand why they need exposure, they need to understand efficiency and time management. At 11 o'clock, Dubal, we had a meeting scheduled with the Minister of Infrastructure. The minister was at the door. By the time we came, we had an hour meeting. When an hour was over, he got up, bowed down to us, and escorted us to the door. At 2:30, we had a meeting, Dubal, with the Minister of Communication. The same thing happened. The minister was at the door, and he walked us out. Dubal, we had a meeting in 2012 with the late Mutula Kilonzo. This is all vice chancellors of universities. He was supposed to be there at 7:30, Dubal. He came at 9:30. And then the group decided to go out and take pictures for another 30 minutes. So the meeting started at 10 o'clock. And Dubal got up and protested, and I said, I'm going back to my office at the university because package, all of us have wasted the time to the time that he arrived. Mutula became my friend until he passed away, because that, he remembered that. Dubal, the debate, this was supposed to be starting for the city of Nairobi, was a very important debate. And I can tell you, I prepared my notes and I was ready to listen to both sides. The young senator woke late, and then he proceeded in a very funny way to greet his opponent. And then they proceeded to talk. So the city of Nairobi needs maturity. The city of Nairobi needs commitment. The city of Nairobi needs depth of a leadership. The city of Nairobi needs commitment. Otherwise, we'll go back to Sonko's time, Dubal, while these investors are coming through Nairobi before they do anything else. Let me say last thing. In America, black people call it CPT time, colored people's time. In black world, it's called black people's time. Nigeria have invented a new acronym called BMT, which is big people's time. And if these fellows are going to be big people's time, then we'll be doomed. So let's be serious about the leadership of Nairobi and the kind of candidate that we need to lead Nairobi.
Indeed, indeed. And of course, the question of the comebacks that was there, for me, I can comment as well. I think Igathe also had very nice comebacks, especially with the traffic jam. When he was asked about the traffic jam, and he said, you know, we'll sort out the traffic jam in the city because of your late coming. I think there were some very witty comebacks that came from Igathe as well.
No, it is true. There were. That's what I'm saying. That the transition from that is corporate magnate to a politician there's a path there.
Well, the Nairobi County is the heart of Kenya, and the quality of the people that we need to attract to be governors in this country, has to be higher. Because look at what the general has done. You know, some people are talking about what's going on in Nairobi. That fellow, that general who was appointed NMS, what's his name? Buddy. Buddy has done a fabulous job in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, I have never seen any of the city councils do what that man has done. I was surprised. I thought maybe he would have been given the job, given his track record. Debal, if you go to the walkabouts and you go to the walkaways and you go to the pedestrian areas and you go to Serena Hotel and you look at the plumbing and you look at the sewages lines and all, he's just done a fabulous job. And Debal, do you know how many clinics have been built around Nairobi since that fellow took power? Lots of them. And the president has had his ear. He's in the cabinet now. The governor of Nairobi should be in the cabinet, Debal. I don't understand why the governor of Nairobi is not a member of the cabinet, because he's in charge of the second largest government in this country. And if he's going to coordinate anything with Nairobi, either there should be a metropolitan minister, okay, specifically for Nairobi, who works in tandem with the governor, or the governor has to sit in the cabinet, because Nairobi is very important to our economy. Secondly, Debal, I also think that we need to split Nairobi into boroughs now. Nairobi has become really big. And we have to start managing it as a form of a federal state itself. Because the amount of people living in Nairobi now has exceeded maybe 7 million people now. Maybe even more. The infrastructure and the work needed to be done in Nairobi, Debal is going to create the wherewithal for an economic takeoff in the coming 5 to 10 years. So Debal, Nairobi, my hometown, my home city, founded by one of my grandfathers and some of his grandfathers, needs better. But for now, Igathe won the debate for me.
According to you. Right. Hassan Kanenje.
Yes. You know, comebacks make for very good entertainment. And unfortunately, what made for the front lines was actually the kind of jokes. But there's nothing funny about governance or service delivery. Anyone who has lived in this city, you know how rotten it was before actually NMS took over. And so, while we are so focused on the jokes and the comebacks that actually took place, when it comes to the real business of governing Nairobi, we're going to need someone who is efficient, who is competent, and for heaven's sake, please, someone who can keep time and someone who is tough.
Yep.
Because the reason General Barry has been able to deliver is because he's all that. Unfortunately, of course, he's in the military and he may be going back, you know, to serve. And so we do not need just people who are going to be full of rhetorics and very, very shallow when it comes to delivery and stuff like that. And so I think those are kind of my remarks, especially with regard to that. And we have to be very careful so we do not we don't accept synchronization of the country and of our counties.
Right, thank you. All right, I just wanted to ask also Kagwanja on what we have on the front page of Star. Tycoons throw multi-million dinner for Raila. This will be happening on Friday. High table corporate setup with the 10 seats will each go for $1 million shillings. Insiders say remaining 25 days, the most consequential phase of the contest. This is tucked on page 4 and 5 of the Star. Kagwanja.
Kagwanja will be there.
You will be there.
No,
in the I just want to. He's a tycoon.
This fellow will not be.
You're privy to this. You can tell us more.
No. I wouldn't say I'm private. I know the people organizing it are my close friends,
so
or mentors, if you wish. Mzee Munga.
Don't be modest.
No, Mzee Munga, I mean, Titus Zibui and others. Well, I'm not one, I mean, I in 1993, if that will help you understand who I am, I was sacked from Moi University
you told
for reading a strike, I mean, forming UASU.
Yes.
And from that day, I couldn't do many things I wanted to do. And I vowed that I'm not just going to be a scholar, but I'm also not going to be a poor scholar. And I'm putting it down on record. So it's not just coming from the brew. Because if you are poor, people push you around. Like has to call me. Now, at least I can afford somebody to come and shut his mouth. It becomes too much. But that's neither here nor there. I think on a more serious note, the idea of fundraising for Azimio is very critical. More so, I think we are beginning the right culture in terms of democracy, because this is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And therefore, people need to finance their own campaigns. I would be very sad if Raila Odinga is doing a global trip to Japan, China, and elsewhere to fundraise for his own campaign. So it's important that we are doing what we need to do as citizens, funding our own politics. So congratulations to Mzee Munga, to Titus Zibui and the MKF team. Also for Raila Odinga being able to attract what we call, that's me rights, called the power elite. Yes. The power elite is not just the politician, it is the business, the securocrats, the academia, and so on. And this fundraiser itself brings the best out of us. That this is not just government of politicians, it is a government of the people as defined in terms of power, the power elite. It is really prized, particularly seen against the backdrop of the Ukrainian war and the COVID-19 and the devastation they have had on our economy. But again, it is really something that we must do. Politics cannot stop, and we must create our leaders so that they can get us to the next stage. I think it's important because up until February, Raila Odinga was trailing behind William Ruto in terms of opinion polls. He made a masterstroke when he chose Mother Karua as his running mate, enabling him to climb the mountain. And that is making a huge difference in this politics. I think this final push is so important to enable Azimio give the relevant stretch. My estimation is that they should get between 58 and 60%. And if they get this kind of funding and they put the best of strategy forward, they should be able to get what Kibaki got in 2002, 62.2%. That shouldn't be far. I think they also need to concentrate on something else in terms of this money. They're talking about agents here and there. But the real matter is winning seats in parliament. Otherwise, if they emerge with a hung parliament, they are going to have a big deal with the Kenya Kwanza.
Let's wrap it at that. These are the faces of the tycoons as well that you can see here. If my director may just have it back. SK Masharia, he will be, of course, on that particular corporate seat. We have Peter Munga, who is the chairman of Mount Kenya Foundation. We have also Francis Atwoli, Kotu Secretary General. We have Titus Zibui, vice chairman of Mount Kenya Foundation. We have George Moho, ex-chairman of Kenya Airports Authority Board. We have also Evans Kidero, former Nairobi governor. We have Suleiman Shabal, Mombasa businessman. We have as well Sami Wakiaga, businessman. We have Wycliffe Oparanya, Kakamega governor, and also Timothy Basira, former Kitutu Masaba MP. These are the people who will be, of course, on that particular dinner on Friday as well, and are steamrolling that particular campaign of Azimio La Umoja. Of course, we want to drill deeper now and see the scorecard of Jubilee as far as human rights is concerned. And we know the Jubilee government and the President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto failed. My auto cue may just roll up so that we can continue with the story, please. The Jubilee government and the President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto failed tremendously in upholding fundamental rights of Kenyan citizens. This is according to a report by Amnesty International Kenya, which cites cases of extra killings and enforced disappearances of suspects as a blot on the tenure of the outgoing administration. Jeff Kirui, that is a 10-year tenure of the outgoing administration. Jeff Kirui has more on this.
As the 10 years of the Jubilee administration comes to an end, President Kenyatta's rule has come under sharp criticism over human rights violations. In a report released by human rights watchdog Amnesty International Kenya, the Jubilee government failed to address or to take action towards stemming excessive use of force by security agencies as the country witnessed cases of enforced disappearances as well as extrajudicial killings of criminal suspects.
The government's record of investigating the killing or disappearance of Kenyans in the past decade was not good. And even where investigation and prosecution of killings took place, the process was slow, it was tedious, it was painful for victims who are seeking justice.
One of the most shocking instances of this was the discovery of tens of bodies of murder victims dumped inside the River Yala. More than 30 bodies have been retrieved and documented so far, but little or no information from the investigations have been forthcoming. According to reports by human rights groups, more than 1,000 people could have been killed in the period since the Jubilee regime took over power.
So when your government turns the gun on you, your government betrays you. Your government is not for you. Your government does not care about you.
Surely we are not going to allow the administration to close without taking action on these cases. Could we even see one arrest for any of these cases? Surely we cannot close this administration without seeing action on the killers of Sheila Lumumba, the killers of Joanna Stachbury, the killers of all those bodies that went through Yala, that were found in the Yala River.
The Ministry of Constitutional Affairs needs to audit and publicly announce the identities and circumstances of all victims of extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, torture, and ill treatment.
Recently, 6 young men suspected of fraudulent activities went missing, only for their mutilated bodies to be found inside Kijabe Forest in Kiambu, Machakos, and Magadi areas. Cases that paint a picture of enforced disappearances.
Kenya has not become party to the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance, which we think is important international instrument, again, which would support the legislative framework for protecting Kenyans against enforced disappearance.
The report further cites the forced evictions of slum dwellers to pave way for infrastructural development as a blatant violation of the rights of the evictees. Last year, thousands were left homeless following demolitions by government in Mukuru slums to pave way for the construction of Catherine Dereba Road to link the Nairobi Expressway to industrial area. The high cost of living has also featured in the report by Amnesty International Kenya, with concerns that the skyrocketing cost of living within the last decade continues to indignify millions of Kenyan families.
Unga is at 200 and something. How many people are able to afford that? In my community, I know people are sleeping hungry without a shadow of doubt. And yet, our leader will come and tell us 2 billion shillings is lost daily. Our leader will come and tell us there's a lot of corruption going on.
Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
Right, and of course we want to go directly to the Executive Director of Amnesty International. This is Rungi Houghton, who is here to talk more about this particular report. Here you are, if you've not seen it, and of course you can head over to their website to download it. This is the missed opportunities there, scorecard on the Jubilee administration and lessons for the next government. Rungi Houghton, so some of the revelations here, of course, you want the government to respond within 100 days. Is it tenable right now?
So the report that was written, first of all, researched by Lawrence Mute, a preeminent human rights scholar, took about 4 months to complete. It's a 75-page report, so it's not, it won't fit in a tweet, but it definitely, the summary is very accessible to all Kenyans. And what we did was we looked at 5 human rights, the right to life, health, housing, and also food security and civic space more generally. And what we found is that when we scored the performance of the two terms of the Jubilee administration, they received 46% across the spectrum. So in many ways, it was a administration that missed many opportunities to be able to consolidate and translate the constitutional fundamental freedoms and rights into the realities of 47 million Kenyans. The recommendations are very specific. There are about 4 or 5 recommendations in each of those 5 areas, and each of them are really designed as, I guess, as a baseline for the next national administration. The implication is not that the Jubilee administration should complete some of these recommendations in the remaining weeks, but that the new administrations should really prioritize these issues. And we've broken them down into 180 days, 100 days, and 365 days. So there's a 1-year benchmark that Amnesty and other human rights organizations will use to check whether the incoming administration is online. And of course, I think now we have to pay more attention to violence against women, particularly in the light of the report that we've seen in the Nairobi capital.
Right. Maybe we're going to get reactions from Dr. Hassan Kanenja on that report. You saw the report.
Yes. One thing I'm going to say, my brother Newton say that say 75-page can't fit in a tweet. Try to give it Donald Trump, it will fit in a one tweet at 3 a.m. in the morning. The report has a lot, and it is sobering, to say the least. And what I can say about that is this, a progressive country is one that can look at itself in the mirror and acknowledge where it falls short and seek ways of improving it. It is true that subsequent administrations have always tried to do better, but there are certain areas in which we are falling short. When we have bodies of Kenyans, dumped in rivers, in forests and stuff like that, when we have cases of murder, rape, and other violations that are not accounted for and they're not prosecuted, it has a way of killing the spirit of a nation. It has a way of diminishing the extent to which our citizens have faith in their own government, in their own institutions. And we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, where is it that we're actually not doing right? What are some of the people we have tasked with the responsibility of providing certain services, but that are still, are letting us down? Because if we do not do that, we're going to keep talking about these stories. So while there's been lots of stories of heroism, of lots of other Kenyans in government, in the security sector, in human rights, in business, we also have to contend with the fact that we're still falling short in a number of critical aspects. And as a nation that is part of the international community, a very progressive country, and the world respects Kenya a lot, we actually need to do more to ensure that Kenyans do not have to endure some of the things that actually go back to 100 years ago. Because in the 21st century, certain things should not be happening, much less having 15 reps every day. And these are cases that are not even prosecuted, at least most of them. Because if they did, at least we're going to know more about them. Now, the challenge, though, also has also to do with the way we've normalized violence against each other, to the extent where even if someone were to report a violation, it's not going sometimes to be taken very seriously. And if it is, there is no follow-up to that. And so that encourages impunity in ways that actually funds these kind of abuses and makes them widespread across the country. And I think it's about time we actually went back to the drawing board and did something about it.
Right. Briefly, Peter Kagwanja.
I would like to take off on this subject from the headline of The Nation today. That is where President Uhuru Kenyatta says, "I was soft, but Karua will jail thieves." I think the Jubilee administration tried its best, but failed to be firm on things that makes our democracy. Our democracy is an emerging democracy. It needed a firm hand in order to institutionalize some of the things that had emerged but had not taken roots during President Kibaki's time. Among these, of course, are the things that the Irongo team in Amnesty International have put together. I know I grew up within the Kenya Human Rights Commission as a researcher and a scholar there. And among the things that we're dealing with were extrajudicial killings. I remember us sometimes, pushing advocacy to the extreme by basically getting coffins to the Attorney General to remind the government that these are real people, these are not just numbers people are mentioning. I never thought that we could have a report like we are having now. So it's unfortunate. So I think the report is very, very important at this transitional moment when we are moving to a new administration. And therefore, Honorable Raila Odinga and Mother Karua have a Herculean task. If God help them to win this election, they have a Herculean task to give a firm foundation to our democracy. What the report is saying is that so many opportunities were missed to consolidate what we should have consolidated. I've just tweeted something on the report myself, and I said the foundationing our democracy on intra-party democracy is one of the missing links. I'm sure the Irogo team did not focus this when they were looking at the civic space, but this is something that we should have looked at. We are going to this election with so much grievance, with so much disgruntlement across political parties, that people should be defeated, they should not be ejected. That is what our democracy is all about. And therefore, I think it's important to basically congratulate the Amnesty International team, Irogo included, for this kind of work, to remind us that, yes, we have a responsibility to nurture, water, and nourish our democracy.
Albert, briefly.
Well, I remember when the war against terrorism started, and the Kenya government was using a club. You remember you used to interview me about these things. The Kenya government was using a club where it was supposed to use a scalpel. It was using jackboots instead of using intelligence. It was using Fanya Fujo Wone instead of analyzing the intelligence context of terrorism. Dabal, when in your country people pop up with their hands tied behind their backs in rivers and in the deserts and in the mountains and valleys of this republic, that is a grave indictment about the moral heights of the political and security leadership of this country. We have an absolute responsibility to protect this country from threats. Absolute responsibility, and I have no qualms about that. And I've advised the government of that. I have bully pit on the national media on those things. But while we have got to find a balance between our values and our security, and if we cannot find that balance, it is a creepy, slowly, slippery slope towards some form of barbarism inside the state. And our rights as individuals and as Kenyans is absolutely protected by what is called the rule of law. And once that is out of the window, then all bets are also out of the window. I think it is very, very important for us to come up with innovative ways of charging people and putting them in front of a court, no matter what kind of court that it could be, a court that is not the one that's attached to the judiciary, that's a court that's attached, that's got some kind of teeth, but we have got to bring people before a court for them to be proven guilty. That's the difference between government of the people, by the people, for the people, and the terrorists.
Thank you.
Because what the terrorists want about is for us to be terrorists, and we have got to stop roganism in this country. We have to stop it, and I commend this human rights report. I say kudos to them.
Right, thank you. When we circle back, we'll pick up with you, Professor Nomi Damba, then we wind up on that and, of course, look at what is happening internationally as well. We take a short break right now. You're watching Global Today.